Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with the company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, Briar Greaves Insurance are the people, the best people to work with. So go to briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166 and see how they can help you on your insurance journey. Happy Thursday to everybody, our last podcast of the week. And we have the draft on the mind as it's coming up next week. So we are going to do a mock draft roundup today of your favorite team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we're going to look at some of the biggest names, the biggest publications in the NFL, in the draft world, see who the general consensus is that everybody has the Bucs taking. And you know what? It's not just one person. There are a little bit more than others, but we'll break that all down, get into other news pertaining to the Bucs, and of course, answer any questions, comments, concerns, and mostly super chats on today's show. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me, my co-host for Thursday shows is Adam Slavon. Adam, hello. How are we doing?
Matt, I'm doing well. Happy to be on the show with you today. Just think, a week from now, Matt, we're going to be at One Buck Place in the War Room, not too far from where Jason Light and everybody are making picks. And the first round pick is really going to dictate the rest of the class. And you mentioned that there's kind of the pool of players. I think it starts with the man on the graphic, Jahad Campbell, but it extends to other players. Scott, he did a Pewter Pulse not too long ago explaining the dilemma surrounding Campbell. So it kind of opens the door to the team addressing various needs.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is people ask me, whether it's fans, people I'm having conversations with, friends, family, and they want to know, who are the Bucs going to take? And my answer has consistently been, I'm not 100% sure because there's so many different areas and avenues and different things that the Bucs can go with. They could end up trading back. I wrote a story on that on pewterreport.com. Not could they, but should they? And I kind of do think that they should, based on how this draft is going to look this year. But it wouldn't shock me if the Bucs go with an edge rusher. It wouldn't shock me if they went with a cornerback or a safety or whatever the case may be. So I think that's what makes it so much fun this year, is that there's a lot of mystery. You can kind of pinpoint who the Bucs may go after, but there's not a guarantee the way it was last year in the first round, where it's, hey, it's Jackson Powers Johnson or it's Graham Barton, and then we learned right away it's Graham Barton. This year, Adam, it is so wide open that, as Kevin Garnett once said when the Celtics won the NBA championship, and I don't even like the Celtics, but it's an all-time quote, anything is possible.
Anything really is possible when it comes to the Bucs drafting. And one thing, I think you made a story on it, expect the unexpected when it comes to the NFL draft. I mean, a couple of years ago, nobody had Kalijah Kancey coming down to Tampa Bay. He ended up being the pick. And this year, with so many defensive needs, I don't think you can pinpoint one exact position that it's going to be. It might be a corner. It might be a safety. Might be an inside linebacker. That adds some spice to it. And that's why when you look at all the analysts and who they have, it's so varied.
It very much is. And yes, there are a lot of differences of opinion. And I do just want to preface for everybody, just so we're all on the same page. We get that there are a million mock drafts out there. Everybody that covers a team has done a mock draft. We did mock drafts in our Bucs battle plan and all those things. Pewter Report has had several mock drafts themselves. Our next mock draft is coming out on Monday, followed by a live mock draft show. But to whittle it down to try to get the most attention possible, we went with either big name draft analysts, people that cover the Bucs, so you'll see some from Buccaneers.com, or big publications that cover the draft, like NFL.com and the Draft Network and Pro Football Focus, things like that. So we couldn't get to every single mock draft. Savon Revel is someone that we've talked about potentially being a first-round pick. He's not on this list because none of the 15, 16 names that we looked at had him in their mock draft. So that's just, trying to be transparent with everybody there. Before we kind of look into who and what the general consensus is, we got to get to some other Bucs news. Top 30 visit news. The latest one that Josh Capo wrote about in their top 30 visits was the Bucs hosted Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, and then the latest one, this is the one that Josh Capo wrote about, is Azariah Thomas, the cornerback from Florida State. And it's interesting with Azariah Thomas because we got to look at him at the Senior Bowl. He had a one-handed interception, got pretty good numbers on our Instagram, not going to lie about that, because it was a big play, not just because he's a Florida State guy. An interesting corner. Adam, I think you met with like his family at the Senior Bowl. Where it was. You got who was it? It was his parents, right?
Yeah, his mom. I had the chance to talk to her throughout him practicing on the field. And one thing that really stuck out, and we can kind of talk about him more, is like she just had such glowing things to say about his character. And you kind of look at his social media page, he's the opposite of flexing and like, oh, I'm doing all these great things. He's very humble and very motivated. And when you kind of look at how he fits, he isn't the fastest guy, Matt. He runs a 4.58 40 time. But what he is physical. And I think that checks the box that Todd Bowles wants. And you mentioned that one-handed interception. There is some playmaking ability there too.
Yes. Yeah, there absolutely is. He's the type of corner that you can kind of just stick on whoever the top wide receiver is on another team. And sure, if he comes to the Bucs, you're not going to do that, at least not his rookie season when you still have Jamel Dean and you still have Zion McCollum starting at corner. But for me, looking at a corner, throw out the sizes and the weights and all of that stuff. That is obviously very important, and the Bucs do value a certain type of cornerback as well. They value the weights and measurements of every position, but at corner specifically, to me, it's attitude when it comes to the cornerback position. It goes back to, and I know he's not on the team anymore, but it goes back to Carlton Davis, calling out Michael Thomas, going up against Jamar Chase, going up against DeAndre Hopkins, all these different guys essentially saying, F you, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to be in your face, I'm going to be in your grill all game long, and there's nothing that you are going to do about it. And a lot of guys can flip the switch on it as well. Like Carlton Davis was super chill, super cool, calm, and collected in the locker room. He was very funny at times, but then on the field just turned into somebody completely different.
Played better against better competition.
He did, and I think that's really important too. You want to play well against everybody. Ndamukong Suh, I think, is another great example. Like, I didn't know what to expect when he came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe that was the 2019 season. I remember thinking the first time that we were about to interview him, like, oh my God, like, what's he going to do? What's he going to say?
He's going to
rip
stomp on
head
somebody?
Off? Yeah, exactly. And then he was one of the most intriguing people that I spoke to on the Buccaneers. Like, and now we've learned as the years gone on, his financial savviness and background and how to invest and him being a mentor. I always found it so interesting. He was a mentor to guys like Sean Murphy-Bunting. Like, doesn't play the same position. Yes, they play on defense together, but just two completely different worlds. And I remember Ndamukong Suh talking specifically about mentoring a guy like Sean Murphy-Bunting. So there are guys that are able to flip the switch, and I think Thomas could be certainly like one of those guys. By the way, Luke Easterling, friend of the program, was on the show not too long ago. I was reading up on your story with all the experts, and yes, thank you for putting Scott as the expert for the Bucs pick at 19, which he went with Donovan Ezaraku. So you had Trevor Sikkema in there, I believe, making the picks for the Giants. But thanks for tuning in, Luke. We really,
thank you.
We appreciate you, and we value your opinion very, very much. I just saw that, so want to make sure that we address it and acknowledge it as well. But Thomas, the speed, it's always dicey when it comes to the speed because you need to have it at the NFL level. And his college career is so interesting to me as well because he went from a loaded Florida State defense in 2 seasons ago when they went undefeated, and then we all know what happened. Jordan Travis got injured and all those things. Thank you very much, Luke. You're the man as well. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming on the show a couple of weeks ago. You keep doing your thing as well because you do it fantastic, Luke. But, Thomas comes from that Florida State defense 2 seasons ago that was on top of the world, a shutdown group. He was a shutdown corner in many, many ways. And then we saw what happened last year. What was it? 2 wins, 3 wins, just an abysmal team. a terrible
Yeah.
offense where the defense either had to do everything, or the opponent they were going against didn't have to throw the ball that much, just based on how bad Florida State's offense was. You knew they weren't going to score. So I do like his lockdown ability. I do like his ability to go after the wide receiver. The speed might be a little bit of an issue, but he does, as Josh Capo points out, he does kind of measure out to some of the other corners that the Bucs have drafted. He's his same height pretty much as Carlton Davis, a little bit taller. Same with Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean. The only person he's a little bit smaller than was Sion McCollum. Weight's around the same as well. Same with the arms length and the wingspan, and does have the slowest 40-yard dash out of all those guys. And I'll put this article in the comments as well. But an intriguing pick for sure for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, especially if like some of the other cornerbacks are gone. And Aaron points out here that he drops to third or fourth in some mock drafts, which is interesting because I think the speed is what will knock him down a peg compared to guys like Revel, Benjamin Morrison, Will Johnson. Those are some of the bigger names. But when you look at a guy like Thomas, there is a lot to like. And there is that profile to where he measures up to Carlton Davis or Jamel Dean. And remember, those guys, they weren't first round picks either. They were drafted in the second, third rounds. And you mentioned Davis. I think that's a good comparison to him, and just like his ability to really be physical at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage. I mean, Davis was the kind of guy who gave Jamar Chase fits and had like 4 pass breakups in one game. I think he kind of possesses that factor. And even if he isn't a full blown ball hawk, I think he can affect the game in different ways. And the guy on the other graphic, Maxwell Hairston, want to mention him too, because he has wheels. He has a swagger. He was at the NFL Combine rocking like a Mad Max chain. And Liam Cohen probably regrets leaving now because being a Kentucky player, Maxwell Hairston could become a Buccaneer. But he had 5 interceptions in 2023. I think a couple pick sixes in there. And you talk about a playmaker. He may not be big or meet like that 6-foot threshold, but there's a lot to like about Hairston too.
Oh, certainly. The speed, the Bucs will take that all day long. And I do think corner, you need to have a mentality one way or another. It's either the FU mentality like we talked about with Thomas, or the swag with the way that Hairston does. Or sometimes you can kind of be in the middle like Jalen Ramsey. Like I think he kind of falls into both categories. Real quick, I know we spoke about it the other day on the podcast. Your thoughts about Jalen Ramsey and what should Tampa Bay do in that situation?
It's interesting with Jalen Ramsey, right? Because he has that name recognition. It wasn't too long ago that he was considered one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. And Jason Light, he's one of the best with Mike Greenberg at creating cap room and that flexibility to kind of fit his contract in there. I know Josh Capo pointed out that he's guaranteed like $21.5 million this year. So there is some negative value there, kind of like Jamel Dean. Like if they were going to trade him, he probably isn't worth the contract that he has right now. But with the corner being such a need, I mean, if you trade for Ramsey, you can kind of check that box for this season, because you would have McCollum, Ramsey, and Dean. That's a pretty good top 3. I mean, you still probably draft a corner, but I think at this point, he just isn't what he used to be, and wouldn't trade really many assets when you only have 6 picks to begin with.
Supply and Demand says, I love Hairston. I just think it's too much money right now with Jalen Ramsey. It's too much money, no matter how you try to navigate it. He does get interceptions a lot, and that's a big knock on Jamel Dean. But overall, for the team, for what their overall plans are with building through the draft, I think that kind of slows things up a lot, considering he's over the age of 30. How much does he have left? How much does he have left at a top level? Because you don't want a Jalen Ramsey that will essentially be what Richard Sherman was on this team, or what Patrick Peterson was for the last couple of years of his career. Steven Stansfield says, Ramsey, not worth it. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably the last time we're really going to talk about it, unless there's developing news about it, or if he gets released. I think if he gets released, we can kind of open up this conversation again and decide whether or not you'd want to add him to the team for a cheap deal, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
And when you kind of think about it, like teams don't trade good cornerbacks. Like if they trade a cornerback, it's for a reason. And with Ramsey, it's his age and just the fact that he isn't worth the contract that he has anymore.
There's an argument to be made He goes, if you're looking at the cornerstone, the Mount Rushmore, the four most important positions in football, it's obviously quarterback. There's no argument there. Edge rusher, I think, is very much on there as well. The last two are up for debate. You could say wide receiver, you could say left tackle, but I also think cornerback and safety are in the mix
Yeah.
as well. And that's no disrespect to any of the other positions. Maybe we'll save this conversation for July when we're waiting for Bucs training camp to start and stuff like that. But you're right. Great corners do not become available. It's very rare, like
Yeah.
Darrell Revis back in the day, and then even Revis. He's at the top of his game. He's with the Bucs for a year, and then he became too much money. So, we'll see with that. The other bit of news, draft-wise, before we get into the main topic, is the Bucs continue to take advantage of these Zoom interviews. They met with Cincinnati running back Corey Kiner. The interesting thing on Corey Kiner is he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons with the Bearcats. That's not exactly easy to do in college football. I mean, one, you got to be around for a long time. You got to have the starting ability as well. He began his career at LSU, didn't have too much playing time. Then he went to Cincinnati, was a backup there for a year, and then really started for the next 2 years, got over 1,000 yards. A very interesting player. Doesn't have the size by any means, but he is as physical as they come. He seeks out contact. He says, "You, I'm hitting you," and he goes and will lay the shoulder in. Great balance after coming off of that contact. I think that's why he craves it so much. You need to full on tackle him. Like, you can't try to rely on an arm tackle. It's just not going to happen. Patient runner as well, really does his best work in a zone blocking scheme. So
that's a fit there.
Yeah, exactly.
In Tampa Bay.
Yeah. So excels best in zone blocking, but doesn't have the size, not exactly the best explosiveness. Didn't really work out in the red zone either, which is a bit surprising given his physical nature. And then not much in the passing game as well. But, he is ranked as like a 6th or 7th round projection for this team. And it goes back to the same category of the Bucs are probably meeting with him or Zooming with him in this aspect to gauge his interest, see if he'd want to come to the team if he ends up not getting drafted and becomes an undrafted free agent. Right now, the Bucs running back room is in a fantastic spot in terms of talent and depth.
Youth.
Youth as well, 1, 2, and 3. Then you have DJ Williams on the practice squad as well. Adam, what would your thoughts be about if the Bucs either used their 7th round pick on a running back or added another running back this year? Given the situation with the Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, I should start with Bucky. But your thoughts about the Bucs adding another running back this year?
Yeah, well, first, I think your assessment of Kiner is spot on. I think the Bucs are just meeting with him to see if he's going to be a UDFA, because I could see a lot of value, again, in bringing in another running back as a UDFA. I mean, it worked out with Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker had that big game last year, and you're kind of waiting for more out of him. But when you look at the Bucs running room, like, it's in a good spot. Like, you have Bucky Irving. He's the established star. Rachaad White, he has a ton of value as a 3rd down running back and kind of just a really good wide receiver out of the backfield. Sean Tucker can always pop off and have that big game, but he should be more of that goal line back. So I think with those top 3, you don't really consider drafting a running back, although this class is just historically deep from top to bottom with, like, you could see so many running backs go in this NFL draft, including, like, in the 1st round, you have Genty, Hampton. You might see a 3rd one in there, and you don't see that much nowadays. But still, I don't think Tampa Bay gets a running back unless it's through the undrafted free agent wire.
Yeah, I agree there. Brian S. says R.J. Harvey, round 7. I know that
Bailey would love that.
Bailey Adams, very happy. Bailey actually did the
running
back.
backs.
Yes, the running back write-up on our Bucs draft preview and Bucs best bets. We just had, I believe, offensive tackle just came out because you wrote it.
Yeah,
Adam.
And center guard will be coming out next.
Yes, that'll be coming out. Then we get closer to the defensive side, so stay tuned. But make sure you check out all of our draft previews. We start with quarterback. We go all the way, to cornerback and safety and slot corner this year as well. So read it all, see who the Bucs might be drafting. Nobody is better than Scott Reynolds when it comes to Bucs best bets and who to find and who the Bucs are going to draft. Also, I just want to put the kibosh on this. The Bucs are not trading Rachaad White. I don't know
No.
how many times I have to bang the tables, shout to the heavens, or whatever the case may be. They are not trading Rachaad White. Let me make sure everybody's looking at me. I repeat, the Bucs are not trading Rachaad White. It won't happen. It will not happen. He's too valuable as a third down running back. He's too valuable as a backup running back to Bucky Irving. Something happens to Bucky. What, is Sean Tucker going to be a one-man show? Is Sean Tucker going to pass block? Rachaad White is not getting traded. You can talk about it all you want in the comments, and I love our viewers, listeners, readers, everything like that. You want to super chat us about trading Rachaad White? I'm happy to talk about it. But it's not a realistic. It's not.
They said they never trade Luka.
That is true, but look how much of a moron Nico Harrison is, and look how much of a genius Jason Light is. Jason Light is the one that fleeces other teams. That is very funny, supply and demand. Jason Light is the one that is acquiring the Luka version of the NFL version of a great trade and a fleece. So one last time, they are not trading Rachaad White. They need Rachaad White very, very much for the insurance that he brings to the team, just like how you need to work with Briar Greaves Insurance to find the best insurance deals that you can get here in the Tampa Bay area. If you're a long-time podcast listener, you probably remember the late, great Mark Cook talking about Briar Greaves Insurance. Pewter Report Scott Reynolds has been a Briar Greaves customer for years, and there simply is not a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. So visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com to see for yourself. Briar Greaves Insurance is family-owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family. Whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance, turn to Briar Greaves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. The days of waiting on hold to speak with an insurance representative that you don't even know are over. With Briar Greaves Insurance, you'll have a relationship with your agent who can answer your questions and advise you on the best policies. As 2 recent hurricanes have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost to living in paradise. Briar Greaves can help you make sure you have the right hurricane and flood insurance to make sure you and your home are protected. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com today. That's Briar, B-R-I-E-R, Greaves, G-R-I-E-V-E-S, or call their office today at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166, and tell them that Pewter Report sent you. Shout out to our friends over at Briar Greaves. Before we get into this mock draft roundup, I see one anniversary for Pewter Report YouTube channel member. We have a super chat as well, but we're going to wait a little bit for Tyler Lavelle's super chat because it kind of goes hand in hand with everything that we're talking about. But Zach Jarvis has been a Pewter Report YouTube channel member for 6 months now. So thank you so much, Zach, for that. We appreciate you. Who says, how would you guys feel if the Bucs drafted James Pierce 19th overall? I think the Bucs culture could help him mature and even make him a better player. Seen his highlights, I think he's better than Donovan Ezaraku. Adam, you can share your thoughts first on this one.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with James Pierce because in some ways, like, his tape really sticks out. And before there was like concerns about his character. Now we don't know too much outside of him being arrested, I think in a traffic stop in 2023.
Yeah, something like that.
But those concerns have maybe caused some teams to lower him on the draft board. But before that really came to light, he was seen as like a top 10, top 15 pick.
Yeah.
So the talent is there to be a first rounder at number 19. I think there's other factors that will cause him to fall. But Jason Light's recent comments at his press conference mentioned that he would be open to drafting an immature player just based on the locker room doesn't really accept any immaturity. Like, they'll mold a player quickly into becoming mature, becoming a leader. And so I think it will take some further evaluation from teams to really consider James Pierce. But when you look at the talent, and if those concerns are very minimal, I think he'd be a perfect addition for the outside linebacker room because he's quick. He has the production at Tennessee. He had 10 sacks in 2023. I believe 7.5 this past year. Like, he would make a lot of sense. It just, you kind of have to evaluate other things first.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that comment, I immediately thought about what Jason Light said when
Yeah.
he spoke to the media last week. And funny enough, I actually have a story about that should be coming out in the recent days. But what I think that does is, and it's not just like, hey, they police each other. It's the culture that they've had for several years now. And Jason Light deserves a lot of credit because he's the one that have brought all these people in. And because Jason has found so much great value and depth in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5, I think this year, where there's less talent overall in the draft, and other GMs are going to have to find value the way that Jason Light has, this allows Jason to roll the dice a little bit in the first round because of Baker holding people accountable. Yaya Diaby was on this podcast like 2 weeks ago, holding people accountable. And Jason said it was the immaturity thing. And that kind of seems like is what it's with James Pierce right now. Now, Jason Light also did say it gets to a certain point. Like, there's certain things that they won't tolerate. And if it turns out that it's something way more serious, then they'll take him off the board. But if it's something that the Bucs can tolerate, I highly, highly, highly would consider going after James Pierce because I absolutely loved his tape at Tennessee. He is a guy that looks like a bullet shot out of a gun going after the quarterback. And I love Donovan Ezeraku. We're going to talk about him a lot on this show. There is no denying the sack production that Donovan Ezeraku just had this last season. But there's a reason why James Pierce, if you take away the attitude and everything like that, was considered a top 10 pick. He was doing it in the SEC. And if you want to argue that the SEC isn't the best conference anymore and it's the Big Ten, that's fine. But it ain't the ACC with what Donovan Ezeraku is dealing with. Pierce, and it all matters. The personality matters. And I know his coaches come out and been like, oh, he's a great guy. Like, of course he's going to say that. And Tennessee certainly has their own problems going on right now with the quarterback. But Tennessee may look right in that situation. You got to do your research, and the Bucs certainly will. I have no doubts that they will. But if he's there and he, passes the background check, if you will, I think you really got to consider it because he was a thrilling player to watch when you put on the tape.
Yeah, and in a world where guys like Donovan Ezeraku, Mike Green, like some of the top edge rushers are gone before the Bucs pick at 19, and James Pierce Jr. is staring you right in the face, and you're like, oh, we can live with him maybe not being the most mature coming out of school because we're going to put him next to Yaya. He's going to learn from his son, Reddick. I mean, if he can get past that and really mature quickly, I mean, it would be a great addition when you look at 2026 and you have Yaya and James Pierce. I mean, on paper, on the field, that's a great 1-2 punch.
It really is. It does become tough, though, if Ezeraku and Pierce are available. Because we talk about Ezeraku, there's no issues there. I think if they're both available, you go Ezeraku and kind of go with the safe bet. But man, that's a fun one to talk about for sure. Again, if he passes the quote unquote background check, which that man right there, Jason Light, will be looking at for sure. All right, so this Bucs mock draft roundup. We looked at a number of big names, big corporations, or big websites, if you will, to see what the general consensus of draft picks were for the Buccaneers, or who they have the Bucs going in the first round. Some of these mock drafts are different. Some are just first-round mock drafts. I mean, Dane Brugler had a 7-round mock draft. These are all the people that we took into consideration. And again, I get it. Every single website that's ever talked about football has done their own mock draft. But at some point, we have to limit it. So, yeah, in no particular order, these are the names of everybody that we looked at their mock drafts. Luke Easterling, of course, of Athlon Sports. Bucky Brooks from NFL.com. Dane Brugler from The Athletic, Kyle Krabs, the 33rd team, Scott Smith from the Bucs, Brianna Dixon from the Bucs, the team writers, Emery Hunt from CBS Sports, Chad Reuter from NFL.com. The Ringer, they didn't have a writer, it just said The Ringer. Ryan Fowler from the Draft Network, Chris Collinsworth from Pro Football Focus, Mel Kiper and Field Yates teamed up on a mock draft on ESPN. Trevor Sikkema, our old pal from Pro Football Focus, Daniel Jeremiah, NFL.com, Emery Hunt from CBS, Mike Renner from CBS, Chad Reuter, and I believe that is everybody. I might have missed a name or two, but yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different mock drafts from technically 17 people when you include Kuiper and Yates working together on one. But yeah, a huge outcome right there. And there were 3 names overall that were tied together, a couple of outliers here and there. But the biggest one that had the most picks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of those picks went to this one player in general. And it's a spicy topic of conversation that we have talked about aplenty on this show, was Jihad Campbell. It's interesting with Jihad Campbell, right? Because he's the consensus number 1 inside linebacker and probably the only inside linebacker that will end up going in the first round.
Yep.
There's a lot to like about him, but Adam, the labrum injury, him not being available probably for a majority of training camp, probably not until the regular season begins. We talked about James Pierce being a roll of the dice. This is a roll of the dice as well, for the main reason being that the Bucs Super Bowl window is open right now.
Yeah, it is. So when you look at a guy like Jihad Campbell, obviously the talent's there. If it wasn't for that labrum injury, this wouldn't even be a discussion. He'd be taken in the top 15 picks. I mean, some mock drafts still have him going 9 to the Saints, or maybe 14 to 17, teams like the Colts and the Bengals. I mean, he's still being considered a first-round pick by many, despite that labrum injury, Matt. But you talked about it, and that injury has a 4 to 8 month timetable. So on the low end, you're looking at him maybe returning to the field August or September. By then, training camp and the preseason's over. You're expecting him to really just hit the ground running in the NFL. I mean, Kalijah Kancey, to be fair, he did that a couple of years ago when he had that calf injury. I remember he played week 1 against the Vikings, couple snaps, but he really didn't play until week 5. And he proved out to be pretty good. But again, Campbell's a roll of the dice because you won't see that like immediate payoff right away. If he ends up being gone till September, or if it gets bad and he's not on the field till December, I mean, you're drafting a guy in the first round when you only have 6 picks, redshirting him essentially.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that in 2026, you begin to see the fruits of that selection. I think right now it's not the wisest move, but you can also understand it because Levante David, he only has 1 more year left. I mean, unless he finds a fountain of youth and at 36 years old, he's like, I got 1 more in me, like that Vince Carter meme. Yeah. It's likely just Servassier Dennis, and then you're going to be drafting a guy next year. So you can understand it. Jihad Campbell's a perfect guy to be in Todd Bowles' defense, but that injury, it's just like, it's there, and you're like, I don't know what to do.
Big time Bucs fan, Vince Carter, by the way.
Yeah.
So I feel like there has to be a caveat with Jihad Campbell in the sense of, if the Bucs decide to draft him, you have to draft another inside linebacker in the same draft class, in my opinion. Because right now, before the draft, you're looking at an inside linebacker room that in 2026 could only have Servassier Dennis on the team. Levante David very much could hang it up after the season's done. And I'm not writing off Levante yet. You know, who knows? Maybe he never wants to retire, and he's literally going to go until the wheels fall off. Anthony Walker Jr. is on a 1-year deal. We'll see how he looks. I mean, unless he has an insane year, he's not getting any multi-year contracts anywhere, let alone the Bucs. And that's no disrespect to him. It's just kind of the nature of the market and, you know, his overall play. And then Deion Jones was already on his last legs coming in last season. Now he'll get a full year under his belt now, and maybe that'll make a difference. But if you truly believe Campbell is your linebacker of the future, I think you can double up then and go with Campbell and then pick another linebacker later, like maybe in the 5th round or something like that. Because if he's not going to be ready until late August, early September, maybe even October, it's not going to be easy to just have Levante and Servase Dennis, knowing the injury history of Servase Dennis. But if you get through Servase Dennis playing and staying healthy in September, and then Campbell comes back in October, now all of a sudden you got a completely different looking inside linebacker room. Plus your linebacker of the future, and you can kind of already set up Jihad Campbell and Servase Dennis for next year. There's a reason why Jihad Campbell is being looked at as a top 15 pick before the injury. The football IQ, the anticipation, reading plays. Could use a little bit work stopping the run, but being downhill, baiting quarterbacks into throwing the football over the middle, dropping back in coverage. He's probably not even the best drop back linebacker, in this draft class, but he does it at a high level and does everything else at the high level. So it is a risk. I just think, too, there was an analyst talking about this, and forgive me, I cannot remember whose name it was, but he was tweeting about that inside linebacker is one of the most difficult positions to judge when it comes to coming out of college and going into the NFL, because the offenses are so different. Even the hash marks are so different on a college football field than it is on an NFL field, that linebackers, just by reading an offense and seeing all the different styles of offenses, there are only so many that are used in the NFL as well. There's not a lot of NFL-style offenses. So what linebackers have to do when reading plays and doing certain back pedals or who to cover and all those things, it's completely different what they're doing in college than in the NFL. And that's why you see Levante David was a 2nd-round pick, and now he's a Ring of Honor member, down the road. And it's like, well, who's to say that the Bucs can't find a Jihad Campbell type player in round 3 or whatever the case may be? So I think because inside linebacker can be found in so many different areas at a higher volume than, say, an edge rusher or a top corner, or whatever the case may be. And, of course, as I say that, everyone will go, well, Zion McCollum. So, there's always exceptions to the rule and things like that. If he was fully healthy, I say give it a shot. But, man, a torn labrum or just a labrum injury, not being able to come back until September, if the Bucs were in a different spot, I'd entertain it more. It's just tough if you want to win now and set yourself up for the future. I think there's other ways to do that with the linebacker position. And based on what everyone else is saying in the comments, they don't want it either.
Yeah. And when you kind of look at the Bucs defense going into next year, they need help week 1. They need guys that can come in, contribute, and be those starters like the Bucs 2024 class was. Because you saw they had 4 starters in that class, and that's what you need out of this class, is you need guys on defense that can really impact the game right away. And Jihad Campbell, for as talented as he is, he might not be ready for that season opener. He might not be ready at all this coming season. So you have to take that into account. But you can also look at it like the Bucs have kind of addressed each of the needs that they have on the team. When you have Hassan Reddick at edge rusher, you keep Jamel Dean really for another season at corner, and then you have Levante at inside linebacker. Now, those are 1-year Band-Aids, but it also opens it up to maybe you draft Jihad Campbell this year, and maybe he plays a handful of games, but that need at inside linebacker is addressed throughout the remaining Super Bowl window. Like, you kind of roll the dice this year, and you're like, okay, Levante, we need you, and Servase Dennis, stay on the field. But if those two can kind of hold the ship upright, I mean, then you go into next year, like the potential that's there for Campbell and Dennis. I mean, you could be looking at the next inside linebacker duo for going into the early 2030s. So, I mean, that's something to consider.
It certainly is. And we'll see if another team takes a chance on him before the Bucs pick at 19. The next 2 players that we will talk about, there was the same number of people that had them in their first round. It was 3 and 3 as well. That's how math goes. The first one we'll talk about won't be much of a surprise. Dun, 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 dun. Donovan Ezeraku in many ways, the white whale of many Bucs mock drafters, the golden goose of edge rushers in this year's draft class. Now, Mike Green certainly has been mocked here and there, but his off the field issues, I believe, are much more negative and big in the bad ways off the field than anything but James Pierce, who we talked about.
Yeah.
So it's really going to come down to if Ezeraku is available at 19. But the more I think about it, like, if you're going to pass up James Pierce, odds are you're more than likely going to pass up Mike Green. I just don't know. We've talked about Ezeraku a million times. I don't see him being there at 19. That's really what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, because if Ezeraku's on the board at 19, to me, Matt, he's the slam dunk pick.
Yes.
Like, he just makes so much sense. The need is there. He's from New Jersey. He knows Todd Bowles. I mean, he'd be the perfect fit, the perfect guy to learn under Hassan Reddick. I mean, you can see Donovan Ezeraku and Yaya Diaby being absolute menaces. And last season at Boston College, he had 16 and a half sacks, 20 and a half tackles for loss. 80 tackles in like 12 games is absurd for the position. I mean, he plays with pop. He's polished. Like, the pass rushing moves are there. He has a nice, like, kind of swim move, a cross chop. He's bendy off the edge. I mean, he can really make his presence known. So to me, Ezeraku would be the guy. But as you mentioned, there's other teams ahead of the Bucs that also need edge rushers. The Falcons at 15. I mean, the Bengals, they need defensive players.
Need everything.
They choose not to pay the defensive players that they have.
Right.
If they trade Hendrickson, Ezeraku could be next in line. I mean, if he's there, though, you'd have to take him. And there's a reason why, of the 16 draft analysts you mentioned, 3 of the most respected have Ezeraku on there. You have Daniel Jeremiah, Trevor Sikkema, and Luke Easterling. Those guys know their stuff, and they think Ezeraku would be a great Buccaneer.
Yeah, those are some heavy hitters of draft analysts. And 2 of them, with Trevor and Luke, have a Tampa Bay background. So, like, they're obviously even way more keen and in line with what Tampa Bay likes and what they want than really anybody else that's writing at a national level. It's his ability to get to. So here's the thing. Ezeraku, I've seen, has been compared a little bit to Leatu Latu from UCLA last year, who ended up going to the Colts. I believe had 4 sacks last year and a little bit of an underwhelming rookie season. And I remember seeing Latu at the time, and I wasn't in on all the hype the way everybody else was. And I understand the Ezeraku to Latu comparison because they are more of the skinnier, bendy, twitchy type than, a hulking, physical specimen of an edge rusher the way that, some of these other guys are, like Oladipo from, ironically, UCLA, who's more of a 3rd round pick, or even James Pierce, or guys currently in the league like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. But Ezeraku, I think, has way more of a physicality to his game than Latu did. Like, we saw him at the Senior Bowl just completely steamroll an offensive tackle. Like, just, hat on a hat, push him over, go through anything to get to the quarterback. I also think he has more of an arsenal of pass rushing moves than Latu did at the time. Latu was just like, hey, I'm fast and I can bend, therefore I'm going to be a great edge rusher. Ezeraku comes with all of the moves. And that's why, like, I can't say a 3rd-year Yaya Diaby versus a rookie Ezeraku are on the same landscape. And it's probably why Ezeraku is a 1st-round talent. But Ezeraku coming out and what Yaya did as a rookie, Yaya had no pass rushing moves.
No.
In his first year. And people are still saying he doesn't have pass rushing moves. I'm not at that level just yet. But Ezeraku's already got different things. He can swim. He can rip. Occasionally he'll bring out a spin. And he's got that speed as well. Like, there's a reason why he's a 1st-round talent, because he's already light years ahead. I don't know if he's worth trading up for, because I really do like Oladipo in that 2nd to 3rd round as well. But yeah, he is the golden goose for a reason. I think he's the ideal person to take the baton from Hassan Reddick if Reddick's only here for 1 season.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And like, we had the chance to interview him at the Senior Bowl, at the NFL Combine. He has great character. He's a great interview. He wants to be a dog for any team that is drafting him. And I think when you look at just his fit overall, like he's the finesse rusher that would complement Diaby. Like, and he's a more finished product than Diaby was when he entered the league, more finished than Leotu Latu. And you can kind of see him being, if he's not in the same tier as like Abdul Carter or Jalen Walker, the guys like mocked in the top 10. But I'd argue he's right in the next group. Like, if you're getting him, you're getting an immediate plug and play starter, and he doesn't have to be that right away. He can learn from Hassan Reddick, who's very similar in terms of height, in terms of weight. Like, he's a skinnier guy himself. And Ezraku could be that kind of ball hawk that Todd Bowles wants at the edge rusher position.
Yes. Todd Bowles made sure to not specify what positions he wants ball hawks. He wants overarching ball hawks. Doesn't matter what position you play. The other player that had 3, technically 4, people go with this player in the first round, and that was Mike Renner of CBS Sports, Chad Reuter of NFL.com, and Mel Kiper and Field Yates of ESPN. All respected names as well. Everyone on here is respected.
Yeah.
Is Ole Miss safe? South Carolina safety, Nick Emmanwori. So interesting tale of the tape here, because the next person we were going to talk about as well, this was from Ryan Fowler of the Draft Network and Chris Collinsworth of Pro Football Focus, is Malachi Starks. But sticking with Emmanwori, the reason why we never felt that he was a proper fit for the Buccaneers is that he is another hulking type of player, but a hulk for a safety type of position. And the Bucs don't typically go for that hulking type of safety player. They want that more with the size and the length at corner than they do at safety. And I just kind of see like LaRon Landry with the physicality that he has. But I mean, there's a lot to like about his game. First team All-American, first team All-SEC. This most recent season, 88 tackles, 6 pass breakups, 4 interceptions. He had a pick 6. And his 40-yard dash, a 4.38. I understand this is not the type of safeties that Todd Bowles has gone for, but they like guys that can run a 4.38 40-yard dash, do they not?
And when you look at Emmanwori, he kind of has like some Cam Chancellor in his game, like same size, same weight. And if Todd Bowles kind of wants to change the status quo of the defense, if he realizes things maybe aren't working with having 2 5'10", 200-pound guys, I mean, you get this guy, he's an athletic freak, 43-inch vertical, like he can jump, he can run with the best of them. And I think that opens up so much for the defense and the roles that he could play, because you have so many like versatile pieces in that secondary, but Emmanwori would just stand out, and he'd be the perfect guy to play with someone like Antoine Winfield Jr., because Antoine Winfield Jr., he'll hold down one side, but you can kind of mess around with Emmanwori, maybe use him in like some nickel packages because of his size and his speed. I mean, heck, he'd be a good outside corner if he like polished his game up, because that speed kills. And if they don't address the cornerback position, getting a guy that can hold down the safety spot, I think would be huge.
It certainly would. And then, Malachi Starks, I mentioned before, 2 people had him. Malachi Starks, he's been a guy that I've been a big fan of for a while. I did not have him listed as my draft crush when we did the Pewter Report roundtable a couple of weeks ago about draft crushes, but I'm a big fan of his as well. He's more of the prototypical size for a Bucs safety at 6 foot. We know the history with Tyke Smith. They played together. I love that Starks covered Brock Bowers in practice as well. He can take the ball away. He's got a high football IQ. Can use him in a lot of different areas too. I mean, they could, in theory, draft Malachi Starks, keep Tyke Smith at safety. And I know yesterday's episode was all about safety position. But sorry, they could keep Tyke Smith in the slot and just keep Starks at strong safety next to Antoine Winfield Jr. I feel like Starks, for me, is the pick over Emmanwori, just based on the fluidity. Now, Emmanwori ran a much quicker 40-yard dash, but I think Starks' speed translates more in game than it necessarily does at something like the combine. But he's another guy that can take the ball away, had interceptions every year of his career at Georgia, and just fits more of the billing that Tampa Bay is looking for.
Definitely. Like Starks checks all the boxes. And you mentioned like him already playing with Tyke Smith. I mean, communication is key on the Bucs defense, but he already has that with one of the guys in the secondary. And he's a very fluid player, and just his play style in general. You know what you're going to get with Starks. He's a high four player who has shown the ability to really be versatile in the Bulldogs secondary, but he's NFL ready. You don't have to worry about him being raw. And I think for this defense, where they're at, you would pencil in Starks at safety and not look back.
For sure. I definitely agree there. Tyler Lavelle, you've been patiently waiting with this $5 super chat. You're also a
Thank
Pewter
you, Tyler.
Report YouTube channel member. Thank you so much. Says Barron Starks for secondary. Talking about Jade Barron, Malachi Starks for secondary. Jalen for the edge. I'm guessing you mean Jalen Walker. For edge in the first round, Landon Jackson in the second round. It's usually Ezaraku or Oladejo or Revel, though. So Jalen Walker, I'm not a big fan of either. I've talked about him before. I think it's a little bit too much of, hey, well, he's from Georgia, therefore he's going to develop into a great player. The production's not there the same way Starks is. Johnny Barron, I'd be fine with as well. Definitely a lot of interesting traits that he brings to the team. Revel, it's another interesting one. I mean, we talked about Campbell with the injury. Revel too. I think I've fallen into the issue of just being like, oh well, hey, he's going to be healthy. He's going to be 100%. Like we don't totally know that for sure.
Yeah, and with Revel, like he was my draft crush when we did that roundtable, and I think he'd be the perfect fit in the second round. I think in the first round you can address another position, but if a guy like Jade Barron's there, I feel like he's not talked about or mocked enough to the Bucs enough because he is 5'11", so you're like, okay, he's limited. He can't play outside corner, but he could still be a safety. He could still play nickel and move Tyke back to safety, and you'd be getting a guy who had 5 interceptions for the Longhorns last year, has football intelligence through the roof. Like when I listened to him at the NFL Combine, he by far had the most like fascinating interview because he would break down all the coverages. Like if you were in that room and Jason Light and Todd Bowles were interviewing with him, their jaws probably dropped when like he would be talking about different coverages. So I think Barron is a great fit, really not being mocked enough, like mocked at all, like to the Bucs. Like nobody's picking him, but he's a really good player. But just in general, I think if you don't get an edge rusher in round 1, getting a guy like Oladejo in round 3, I mean, that guy is a freak. And again, he kind of fits that mold of you draft him, you let him develop, and then you kind of let him on the field and get some starting reps.
Yeah, for sure. And being able to help out in different ways is also exactly what Immunity Financial does when it comes to managing your money. Immunity Financial has proudly been serving clients across the country since 1980. We know the video says Colorado, and they have offices in Tampa, but they have it all over the continental United States. You could be in Maine, North Carolina, Nebraska, all over this glorious place of the United States, and they can help you with a number of different things from advisory services to investment banking, annuities, and sales and trading. So go to immunityfinancial.com or give them a call today and see how Immunity Financial can help you get a free consultation when doing so. Another super chat to get to from Meets McGee. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, when Light spoke on players with immaturity issues and not completely taking them off the board, do you believe he's talking James Pierce Jr.? I absolutely think that he's talking about James Pierce because that is a player we have not linked to the Bucs really at all. And I'm not sure if it's because of either the character issues and the Bucs not wanting to go down that road based on we want the Levante David type of player, or for the fact that he's probably going to go in the top 10 or the top 15. But man, if he gets out of that top 10, when you look at some of the teams on the board, you mentioned before, Adam, about Atlanta at 15, I think the best thing can happen is, Cam Ward's going 1. If a couple offensive linemen come off the board, maybe a defensive tackle or 2, or the Saints drafting Shedeur Sanders would help out a lot. Or a team trading up to go get Shedeur so the Steelers can't get him, or whatever the case may be. if they can get, or if Jackson Dart gets drafted, that's going to help the Bucs so much. Because I think the best case for the Bucs is if you have Pierce and Ezeraku still available by the time it gets to the Falcons at 15. And if the Falcons take one of them, all right. Well, that's why you got Tristan Wirfs and Luke Gedeke.
Exactly.
If they can find a way to get one of those two guys at 19, I think that's the pick, regardless of which one it is. And maybe they're both there, but I think you need some wonky and crazy stuff to happen early on within the top 10 in order for either of those guys to be available. But yes, I do think James Pierce Jr. is probably one of the guys that Jason Light was kind of referencing to with the immaturity.
And the last thing I'll say about Pierce there is the Bucs defense is filled with good guys. They're filled with the Zion McCollums of the world who are always beaming with smiles, and Antoine Winfield Jr., who he's a leader behind the scenes. But the Bucs defense, when they won the Super Bowl, had Ndamukong Suh. They had Jason Pierre-Paul, like kind of some veterans, but maybe a little immaturity, or I don't know, arrogance would be the word. But you get a guy like James Pierce Jr., maybe he isn't a good guy. Maybe he is slightly immature. But if you can hone in his talent, if you can make him a double-digit sacker on defense and kind of really be an intimidator where there really isn't one, I think that also holds some value too.
Yeah, it could. It could for sure. And at this point, you just got to trust the Bucs to get it right, because they have done it time and time again, and I have no reason to really doubt them this time around. Want to get to this super chat as well from Zach Jarvis. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who says, how do you guys feel about Jack Sawyer in the third? He's an interesting case because he's listed as edge rusher, but I remember him like playing all over at Ohio State. He's ranked 11th on the Beast from Dane Brugler in terms of edge rushers. Did a little bit. I mean, the stats are pretty good in 2024. 59 tackles, 9 for loss, 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. Of course, he had that crazy play. I think it was against Texas where you had the strip sack and the scoop and score at the same time. General consensus of him is that he's a one-dimensional player as a pass rusher, lacks ideal suddenness or length for an edge player, but his activity level and the strength in his hands make him an every down factor, similar in ways to George Karlaftis. He has the competitive play personality that NFL coaches will welcome as part of their rotation. Of course, he was team captain as well for Ohio State, All-American, defensive MVP in the Cotton Bowl as well. I don't like him in the second round. If he's a third rounder, I don't know. I see him more as like a third or a fourth rounder. I just don't know how much he'll kind of match up against some of the other offensive tackles that he'll be going up against at the NFL level versus the college level. But he certainly doesn't slack off in the weight room. I'll tell you that. So I don't know. I'm not in love with them, but you're certainly getting like a leader and a guy that will fit in with any team that he goes to.
Yeah, exactly. And when I first watched Sawyer, I was a big fan of him. And like I was asking Josh Capo about like his thoughts on Sawyer, and he actually was like, don't really like him because his short arms like won't really translate to the NFL. And so you look at him, he finds ways to make plays. You mentioned that scoop and score. You mentioned like his ability to generate sacks in big moments. You kind of get that Anthony Nelson feel to him where he wouldn't be a starter per se, but more of like a rotational guy. If he's a third or fourth rusher, you'd probably be happy with it. But his ceiling, I think, is capped with his length and really his speed. So it kind of makes him one-dimensional, but that dimension could still lead to some production.
National champion, but never beat Michigan. So kind of a interesting one there. Modern day warrior, mean guy. Today's Jack Sawyer, or whatever the saying is from that Rush song. I know it's Tom Sawyer, but if he goes to the Bucs, I'm going to have to come up with some type of thing.
Captain Jack Sawyer.
Yeah, Captain Jack. Modern day warrior, mean guy. Today's Jack Sawyer. Yeah, modern day warrior, something guy. Today's Jack Sawyer, mean guy. All right. Anyway, you can think about some more songs for Bucs players over at Walk-Ons, who have the best happy hour around in the Tampa Bay area. They have happy hour every single day, just at different times. You can get deals on domestic pints, awesome food as well. There's 3 Walk-Ons in the Tampa Bay area. One over in Wesley Chapel, another in Lakeland, and a third over in Midtown, close to Raymond James Stadium. They have a new transfusion cocktail going out at Walk-Ons right now. I was actually having transfusion last Sunday when I was golfing, and I may this Sunday as well when golfing again. But make sure you test that out over at Walk-Ons, still available through the Zurich Classic. If you want to host a graduation party for a loved one that's graduating either high school or college or really whatever, give them a call. They got plenty of room to host your party there. And they also have a Jack Daniel's spirited dinner coming up where you could try out some of the delicious crafts of Jack Daniel's. That's taking place May 21st at 6:30. But call them today at 813-771-7100. That's 813-771-7100 to reserve your spot today, or email them at mid-mkt, that's marketing, at walkingtallbrands.com. That's mid-mkt at walkingtallbrands.com. Shout out to our friends over at Walk-Ons. The other names that were listed, besides the big names that we spoke about, were the Ringer, which many were saying was Todd McShay, was Nick Scarroton, the Texas A&M edge, Brianna Dixon in her second Bucs mock draft. She's the Bucs team writer along with Scott Smith. Had Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, and those were some of the other ones that were listed. Scarroton, I just don't see it. I know I had him in my mock draft, but that was after the Bucs did two different trades and they traded all the way back.
It was madness.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a little bit different. Matthew Golden, though, I'm certainly open to it. When you talk about replenishing the wide receiver position, making sure you got more of a stable guy, even more than maybe what Jalen McMillan was, I'm certainly open to Matthew Golden getting drafted to the Bucs.
Yeah, Matthew Golden is fun. Like, he'd be a luxury pick because you'd be picking offense when there's so many needs on defense, but man, is he good. Like, there isn't really any flaws to his game. He is 5'11", so he doesn't have like that 6-foot size like that Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
He's a little bit shorter, but he's fast. He had big games against big competition. We talked about that with corners, but he saved his best for the college football playoff, had a really good game. He's a polished deep threat, I think would be his initial role in the Bucs offense. Like, he would be that factor, that big play guy that was kind of lacking last season to some extent, but down the road when Mike, a few years, maybe he's gone. Chris Godwin, maybe he doesn't last his full contract. You'd be comfortable with Matthew Golden and Jalen McMillan as a 1-2 going forward because there's a lot of talent. There's youth there. And I think with Golden, the potential is just through the roof.
Yeah, you certainly would. I love the way he floats through the air.
Yeah.
Had some clutch moments, too. A late touchdown in that game against Arizona State for Texas. Made some great catches, too, especially on third down. I think he'd be a good fit for the Bucs. So would be a big fan of his. Just a reminder, actually, first of all, I'd be remiss if we did not give a shout out to all of our Pewter Platinum members. So thank you to Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Zach Jarvis, Kevin Thomas, and Mario Thomas. Thank you all for your support of PewterReport.com. We greatly appreciate it and couldn't do this show without you. Scheduling coming up. We will have our last Bucs mock draft coming up at 8:30 on Monday night. It'll be Scott and Josh once again. The mock draft will drop live on PewterReport.com at 5 p.m. with the mock draft show coming up at 8:30 that evening. And coming up next Thursday starting at 7 p.m., it'll be night one of Pewter Report's live draft show. We will be at the Advent Health Training Center, the Bucs facility, an hour before the first round starts. So the first round begins at 8, so we'll go live at 7. We'll break down every single pick, give some insight on the Bucs. We'll react to the Bucs pick, all of that fun stuff. We'll do it again on Friday. That starts an hour later, and we'll do it on Saturday as well. But the live draft show kicks off Thursday at 7 p.m. We're very excited for it. It is a marathon, but it is a ton of fun and the draft has also arrived, which is very exciting. Also, no Pewter Insider tomorrow. That is because it is Good Friday. Also, Scott's out of town, but it's Good Friday, and we figured with Easter coming up, let everybody enjoy themselves and enjoy time with family. Also, Passover, I believe, was last weekend, so happy Passover to anybody that celebrates that, and a happy Easter to everybody that will be celebrating on Sunday. Hope you have a great time. Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. In the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please make sure you follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe, and leave a comment on this video below. That's going to do it for us. Hope everybody has a great weekend. A lot of awesome, entertaining things going on. You got WrestleMania this weekend. I'm hoping John Cena gets his 17th title. Playoff basketball and hockey is around the corner. So
Yep.
Good luck to Adam's Bucs. Let's go
You're
Knicks.
next.
Good luck to the Magic. Good luck to the Lightning and hockey. So a ton of great stuff going on. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your time with family. For Adam Slavon, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.